Israel's unilaterally ended the 2-month-old Gaza ceasefire agreement, launching a massive wave of airstrikes overnight that killed at least 400 people and wounded more than 560 others, numbers that are expected to rise with scores of victims still trapped in the rubble. Palestinian health officials say many of the dead are children. The attacks began without warning, though earlier today Israel's military warned residents of several parts of Gaza to evacuate immediately after declaring their neighborhoods to be dangerous combat zones. This is a survivor of an Israeli attack on al-Mawasi area of Khan Yunis.
We woke up and got out of our tents to the streets. They fired a missile here near us. We looked around and found fire coming from the strike. While we ran to see what happened, we found a second missile that had been fired. The tents were on fire. The women started to scream, and the children were terrified. Of course, everything escalated suddenly. We ran towards the scream. Then we came here and started to pull out the injured people and those who had been martyred.
The White House said Israel gave the U.S. advance warning about its renewed assault on Gaza. Even before the airstrikes, Palestinians were suffering for more than 2 weeks of an Israeli-imposed blockade on all humanitarian and fuel aid to Gaza. On Sunday, UNICEF reported a third of young children in northern Gaza are suffering from acute malnutrition, adding, quote, 1 million children are living without the very basics they need to survive yet again, unquote. Already strained from 15 months of war and a 2-week siege, hospitals in Gaza are struggling to keep pace with this new wave of deadly attacks. Just before today's broadcast, we reached Dr. Feroze Sidhwa, an American trauma surgeon volunteering at Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, Gaza.
This is Feroze Sidhwa. I'm a trauma surgeon in California, currently volunteering at the Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis. On the western side of Khan Yunis in Gaza. Overnight, the Israelis resumed bombardment of Gaza. The latest reports are that about 400 people were killed. I know at least 40 arrived dead at our own hospital. Certainly many more went on to die, and many more will die in the future. Overnight, I think, it's hard to remember now, but I think I did 6 operations. I'm about to do a 7th one right now, which is why I can't join you live. I apologize. You know, half of them were children. Half of the patients I saw in the ER were also children, just like last time when I was at Gaza European Hospital about a year ago. Half the victims were children. Half the operations I did were children. Probably a good third of them will go on to die, despite us being able to take care of them properly, just because we can do the initial operations, but we don't have the facilities or the ability to take care of them properly after that. And on top of that, they're all coming in malnourished. They're all dehydrated. They've all had gastroenteritis constantly for the past 15 months. The whole human society here is just devastated, and that results in bad health outcomes, as you can imagine, especially when you get your intestines torn open. One of my Palestinian colleagues, his father-in-law, has been killed just a few hours ago. He was actually running the triage in the emergency room, so keeping people outside, making sure that people could access the hospital who actually needed it, and the kind of what we call walking wounded people who were injured but could wait to be seen were kept in a separate place. His father-in-law was killed, and he found out about that like an hour into the process of the mass casualty event. Just kept working. Didn't go to see him until he'd already been buried this morning, because he had to take care of his patients. One of the women who I operated on, 29-year-old woman, her sacrum, the lowest bone on your spine, between your spine and your pelvis, has a I don't know, probably tennis ball-sized hole in it, which is basically the whole sacrum. And her rectum was torn in half. Her bladder is injured. Her vagina is injured. She's a 29-year-old woman. She's actually the sister of one of the doctors who works at the hospital. I didn't find that out afterwards until after I operated on her. And yeah, it's obviously quite devastating. I suspected that the war would restart while I was here. While I was volunteering on this trip, because the Israelis basically announced that they would restart it while I was here. But nevertheless, it's kind of heartbreaking to see. to see a return to that same bare level of just trying anything to survive that the Palestinians have been forced to do for the past 15, 16 months. They got about a month and a half break from it, had a little bit of normalcy with the ability to eat with their families during Ramadan, even if it was in a tent, the ability to drink water that was at least desalinated, if not clean and fit for human consumption. That's all gone again. And it's all because we provide the funding, the diplomatic, the economic, and the military support. And we don't have to. We didn't have to under Biden. We certainly don't have to under Trump. Trump says he wants to end the endless wars. So, okay, do it. It's not that hard. All you have to do is stop providing the arms for them. But yeah, Americans, I just hope people will do something about this and not let this happen again. Another round of just extreme, senseless mass killing, mostly of children, mostly of refugees, and mostly of people who are literally barred from leaving this concentration camp that they were born into.
That's Dr. Feroze Sidhwa, trauma surgeon volunteering at Nasser Medical Complex in Khan Yunis, Gaza, with Med Global. Last year, he volunteered at the European Hospital in Khan Yunis. To see our interview with him last week when he just arrived at Nasser Hospital, go to democracynow.org. For more, we are going right now to Gaza. We are joined right now by Abubaker Abed. He is in Deir al-Balah, which has been hit hard. We'll see if we can keep this connection going. Abubaker, thank you so much for being with us. Abubaker is a 22-year-old journalist. He used to be a soccer commentator, but now, as he says, he's an accidental war correspondent. Describe the scene in Deir al-Balah, Abubaker.
Yeah, there are very chaotic and hectic scenes coming out from every place. We're talking about several bombardments that have happened since the very, very early morning, and particularly here in this place. And we talk about the casualties and how we were hearing people's screams, people's wails. I could hear my neighbors wailing in pain over their loved ones and over their children. It was...
We're having trouble keeping that line going, but we absolutely thought it was worth attempting.
Something we've never imagined, and you can tell from here this being that the attacks started to happen.
We're going to try to reconnect with him. You can see it's extremely difficult. Israel has shattered the ceasefire, is bombing all through Gaza. But we're going to turn right now to Diana Buttu, Palestinian human rights attorney, former advisor to the negotiating team of the Palestine Liberation Organization. Diana, you heard a moment Abubaker. Before that, you heard Dr. Feroze. And, of course, you're getting reports since Israel shattered the ceasefire. Can you describe what has taken place, the shattering of these negotiations and what it means?
It's really important, Amy, to keep in mind that what Israel's doing is it's actually just uniformly bombing Palestinians because it can. Over 90% of the buildings in the Gaza Strip have already been bombed. And so what Israel claims that it's doing is that it's targeting structures, and yet there's nothing there any longer. So it's not at all surprising that we've seen the death toll reach 413 with over 560 Palestinians who are injured. We're expecting that this death toll is going to rise substantially over the next few hours. And it's because Israel used over 100 airplanes to attack all throughout the Gaza Strip. And the reason that they're doing so is because there's been nobody that has stopped Israel. All that we've seen over the course of the past 15 months is a demand that Palestinians somehow negotiate with the Israelis. And there's been absolutely no guarantee that Israel's going to stop the bombing, that it's going to allow humanitarian aid, that it's going to rebuild Gaza, and that it's going to have Palestinians lead a normal life. And so we're seeing this because Israel knows that it can get away with it. And it knows that it can get away with it because it got away with it during the previous administration. And it's certainly going to get away with it under the Trump administration.
And Diana, what kind of a notice did the residents of Gaza receive before these attacks happened? Israel is claiming that the negotiations reached a dead end, but did they really negotiate at all?
No, they never negotiated at all. That was also another one of the problems. We had the first phase of the negotiations, which Israel both halted and as well was violating. And then it never entered into any earnest negotiations over the second phase. And that second phase was going to lead to Israeli withdrawal and, of course, reconstruction and so on. And so much so that the Israelis failed to send their negotiators most of the times. So it was clear that what Israel wanted was that it wanted to continue to resume the attacks on the Gaza Strip, that this pause was simply a pause in order to change the different U.S. administrations. And that's it. And once again, it goes back to this issue of whether it is that Israel can get away with committing these massive war crimes. And it's clear to Israelis and to Israel that it can, unless there is some international action to actually bring Israel to a halt, to stop the weapons flow, to put sanctions on Israel, to hold these criminals to account. I'm afraid we're going to continue to see this. And we knew this when the ceasefire agreement was signed.
Diana, I want to try once again because it is so rare. As people who watch corporate media know, they almost get nothing out of Gaza directly. We spoke to Dr. Feroze Sidhwa. We are continuing to try to get a comprehensible line to Abubaker Abed, journalist in Deir al-Balah. Abubaker, what is it most important for people to understand? And were you surprised by these airstrikes right now?
People have to understand, Amy, that the corpses of people are now piled up in the morgues of the hospitals. Here at Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, we've been seeing children, babies, killed and taken to the hospital, and mothers wailing over the bodies of their loved ones. People have not yet recovered from the endless trauma they have been through during the past 15 months. We haven't taken a breath from what we have been enduring, and it just happened all out of a sudden. We were harshly awakened. We couldn't really understand what was happening. I'm talking to you and I'm literally shaking. People have to understand that the people of Gaza cannot really go into any more seconds of this war. This is just indiscriminate, unbearable, insurmountable, inconceivable. I don't know what more words I can tell you to describe the scenes at the moment. People don't know. We have right now overpricing and scarcity of food items. People don't know. People have spent their days, the past 24 hours, without a single meal at all. I know families and been to the family, and for me personally, I just had some bread along with some cheese. The prices are insane. Everything is going right now is absolutely insane. It's just about like you're hearing your neighbors screaming in pain. That kind of screams and that kind of several bombings that has happened over time has just revoked a lot of painful memories that I've been through and that I've had during the past 15 months. And we needed our time to take some rest. We said that the ceasefire would secure some peace for us, or some tranquility, some rest from what we have been enduring. But unfortunately, it seems otherwise. Now we're getting back to it. We're talking about more than 400 people have been killed, mostly children. Here in Deir al-Balah, at least 20 people have been killed. We're talking about a family that lives near us that has been wiped out, more than 7 people, and another family almost wiped out with more than 5 members. That is literally unbearable. We cannot really have a genocide rolling back again. We cannot really allow the word. I don't know why the word. We wanted the word to do us a favor and left the blockade, the current blockade, but the word allowed Israel to continue and resume the genocide. This is literally unbearable. I can't tell you how we're feeling, how the children are feeling. Now, in Deir al-Balah, we've gone away right now. We've visited one of the nearby centers, the desalination plants, and they've told us that they don't have a single drop of potable water. So Deir al-Balah is devoid of a single drop of water, of potable water for the population. So how can we cope? We cannot really brace ourselves for starvation again, for bombardments again. We cannot really blot out our pain because we don't have the means to live.
Yeah, I wanted to ask Diana Buttu, the reports from the AP, press reports in recent days that the United States and Israel have reached out to 3 African governments, Sudan, Somalia, and Somaliland, for possibly hosting Palestinians who would be removed from Gaza. Your reaction to that?
It's not at all surprising. This is exactly what Israel has been wanting to do, which is to commit genocide as well as ethnically cleanse Gaza. And the fact that we're seeing these plans go ahead, despite the fact that both of them are illegal under international law, it shows you the state of the world. And so it's not at all surprising that they have been doing this, because from the beginning of the genocide, since October of 2023, Netanyahu made it clear that he wanted the Gaza Strip to be smaller in size and thinner in population. What that means is that he wants to see ethnic cleansing, he wants to see genocide, and he wants to see the takeover of the land of the Gaza Strip. And with President Trump, this is precisely what they're implementing.
And I wanted to ask you, Diana Buttu, about Israeli prosecutors agreeing to cancel a planned hearing today in the prime minister in Netanyahu's corruption trial due to his launching this major assault on Gaza. Do you think that's what's motivating it?
Absolutely. Look, a lot of what Israel has been doing lately and what Netanyahu has been doing lately is in order to save his own political career. He's a deeply unpopular prime minister. Israelis are looking at him and blaming him for not only corruption, but for everything that's going on in the country. And in order to save his hide, to prevent himself from going into prison, he's been doing everything to try to prolong this genocide. He's been doing everything so that that Palestinians are the ones who are paying the price with their bodies, literally, in order to prevent Netanyahu from going into prison.
Breaking news. The breaking news, Juan, the Otzma Yehudit Jewish Power Party, led by the far-right lawmaker Itamar Ben-Gvir, is returning to Netanyahu's coalition government. The hardline party, which opposed a ceasefire with Hamas and pressed for Israel to cut off aid to Gaza, had left the coalition in January. Now the return strengthens Netanyahu's position before a crucial budget vote expected next week. Your response to that, Diana?
Yes, this was also not at all surprising, because what Ben-Gvir, this is a man who's racist, fascist, who's called for the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. What he was saying at the beginning was that he never wanted to see a ceasefire, that he wants to see Palestinians from Gaza ethnically cleansed from Gaza. He withdrew from the coalition over the idea of a ceasefire agreement. And now that Israel has resumed the genocide, he's come back into the fray in order to make Netanyahu's coalition even stronger, so that he can then not only pass the budget, but continue to be able to put into place these genocidal policies. One thing that's important to keep in mind is that Ben-Gvir is also the person who's been pushing for Israeli settlers to come and take over the Gaza Strip. So what we're now seeing is a combination of the continuation of genocide, as well as pushing forward. We're probably going to see pushing forward plans for Israeli settlers to take over the Gaza Strip, something that they were talking about from the very beginning.
And Abubaker Abed, if you can still hear us, I wanted to know even before Israel was resumed bombing, what was the situation in terms of receiving aid or water for the people in Gaza?
For 16 days, consecutive 16 days, there hasn't been a single aid truck allowed into the territory, and has exacerbated the situation. And even during the ceasefire, we're talking about more than 150 that have been killed. Now, Israel, in just 10 hours, has killed double this number, over double this number, in fact. And we're now just seeing markets running out of food. Like, I've gone out to see if markets have food items at the moment, but they don't have. And now, what is this situation? We talk about the hospitals here. They are calling out people to come and donate blood because they don't have blood units. I've talked to a doctor from al Hospital in Nasser, and he told me that the hospital is void of literally every basic necessity. They deal with the bare minimum in their hands, the less than the bare minimum in their hands. They're trying to treat patients with almost nothing. That is absolutely barbaric, because Israel hasn't been allowing aid into Gaza, hasn't been allowing medical supplies. They need medical supplies to treat the influx of injuries that have been left because of the war, because of the genocide. Now, more 600, 700, have been wounded in the past 10 hours. Well, 400 have been killed. More than 400 have been killed. I don't know when this will end, but we're hearing by Israeli quadcopters and along the eastern outskirts, quite a few meters away. I haven't slept all night. I haven't slept until now. So when can we have this kind of relief? When can we stay like calm and have our rights as a human? We're still in the same bubble. Palestinians dream to live. The whole world to dream. We want to go out of that zone and have dreams. No dreams. Even there's a dream that we want to live is no longer feasible. That is the peak of the humanization. That is many dreams in Gaza have been destroyed. Many dreams have been crushed. Many families are still under the rubble. We haven't even recovered the bodies from under the rubble because Israel hasn't been allowing the heavy vehicles into Gaza. The bulldozers and the caterpillars. People wanted to build a new life. Israel didn't allow that. Israel wants clearly to erase every sign of hope inside Gaza, but we will continue to hope, we will continue to carry that hope. And even if it's not our time, the next generations will carry that hope until we make sure that we live the life we want, because we are humans and we deserve to live and we teach life.
Abubaker Abed speaking to us from Gaza, from Deir al-Balah, which has been very hard hit. He also reports for Drop Site News. Diana Buttu, we want to thank you for being with us, Palestinian human rights attorney, former advisor to the negotiating team of the Palestine Liberation Organization. And this news from Haaretz, the Hostages and Missing Families Forum, said today, following the resumption of Israel's attack in Gaza, that the greatest fear of the families, the hostages and the citizens of Israel has come true. The Israeli government has chosen to give up on the hostages, they said.